Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game preview to Everton's upcoming Premier League fixture against Arsenal at Goodison Park on Monday evening. Another home game for Rafa Benitez's Everton side as they look to end this absolutely torrid run of form. 11 games I think now, 10-11 games without a win, or one win in 10-11 games, should I say. 2 months without a win, obviously coming off the back of an absolutely embarrassing Merseyside derby defeat just a couple of days ago, and we face an Arsenal team who were in relatively good form. I know they lost last night to Manchester United, and away from home recently they've been a little bit shaky, but for the most part this season, they've put in some really, really good performances. The players are starting to, I think, trust in the manager's processes, and they're starting to look like a side that and much more improved to the Arsenal team that we saw last season. Of course, Everton done the double over Arsenal last season, beating them at Goodison Park in December, around about this time, and obviously beating them at the Emirates a little bit later on in the season as well. So, listen, this one is another massively difficult game of football for Everton. It really, really is. It goes without saying. Rafa Benitez has had his pre-game press conference today. He has given us an injury update regarding Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Yerry Mina. We'll talk about that in just a second. But he also addressed the poor run of form and, where we are currently as a club at the moment. He was asked a couple of questions about, what he thinks about the fans and the reaction of the fans at the end of that Merseyside derby on Wednesday towards the board and towards what's going on at the football club at the moment. He, said what you would expect him to say. It's not, it's not the fault of a single person. We all have to take responsibility. And he was asked about the players and how they're sort of feeling at the moment. And he said, well, to give you an example, basically Seamus Coleman wasn't happy that he made a mistake, which is as expected. I wouldn't expect him to come out and go, Seamus Coleman was absolutely fucking made up that you made the mistake. And he made the mistake. And look, Seamus is, he's been at the club for a long time. And I'm sure that defeat hurt him probably a little bit more than any of the other players, and certainly given that his mistake was for me the turning point in the game. But it's not just about that mistake, it's not just about Seamus Coleman. I think I don't necessarily think Rafa Benitez was missing the point. I just think he was very clever with what he said in front of the media about his employer, to be honest with you. He obviously answered the questions in the way that you would have expected him to, probably not the way you would have liked him to, but the way you would have expected him to, given that there's a lot of controversy surrounding his appointments at the moment and whether or not he should keep his job. Obviously you had Farhad Moshiri coming out and quite openly backing him via a text message to Jim White on TalkSport, which we spoke about yesterday, and now that is an absolute disgrace. And so he's not going to come out today and say, yeah, I think it's brilliant that the fans are targeting the board because they're absolutely useless, is he? Even though that's the truth, he isn't going to come out and say that. But he did say that this is a massive game. He said that when you're in a run of form like this, every game is a must-win game. And I agree with him on that point. This game on Monday night simply is a must-win. Now, whilst Arsenal are a decent side, whilst they're playing some nice football at the moment, and they looked, relatively good against Manchester United yesterday, albeit in losing that game, they're certainly not an unbeatable side, certainly away from home. They've lost a couple of times away from home on the bounce now. And, again, they've been much stronger at the Emirates than they have on the road this season. And for Everton, for me, it's not a case of looking at Arsenal and going, look at how brilliant they are. Maybe like we did with Liverpool. It's more about looking at the league table and seeing Everton stuck in 14th place, only 5 points above the relegation places, and only 3 points above Watford, who were in 17th. So if Watford were to win at the weekend, we would fall maybe as low as 17th. I know there's a couple of other teams in there, Leeds and Southampton, but if those were, all three of those teams were to pick up points, win games, then we'd drop, as low as 17th in the league table, and then only be potentially a couple of points above the relegation zone. So we absolutely have to start picking points up, and we absolutely have to start winning games. And this has been the case for weeks and weeks and weeks now. This was the case on Wednesday when we faced Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. Okay, maybe it was too big of an ask for us to go out and get anything out of that game on Monday night. On Wednesday night. Listen, Rafa Benitez is absolutely made up because we ran around more than they did, apparently, according to his press conference today. By the way, that statement, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll read it out now before we go any further, because it does have relevancy to this video, because it was his pre-game press conference ahead of the game against Arsenal. He was basically asked about the Merseyside derby, and how he felt it went. He said, "We are disappointed, really disappointed. It's a derby, it's more emotional, but we're really disappointed in the way things are going on. We were running more than Liverpool in every department, but we conceded 4 goals. They punished our mistakes." Now, whilst you might listen to that and think, that's not that big of a deal, for me, bringing up the fact that we were running around a lot more than Liverpool, despite the fact that the reason we were running more than Liverpool is because we were chasing shadows for the majority of the game, almost screams of, an attitude that a certain other ex-Everton manager had not so long ago and ended up being sacked, and was quite, fans were quite vocal about the delusion, shall we say, of this certain other manager, and obviously that worried about the results as well. So I didn't understand that. I really didn't understand coming out and saying we were running more than Liverpool as if that's an excuse as to, right, it's sound, we got absolutely battered, we just lost 4-1 in the Merseyside derby, biggest Goodison Merseyside derby defeat in however many years, but we ran round more than they did, so it's sound. No, it's absolutely not sound whatsoever. But anyway, enough of Wednesday, that's gone and done and dusted. We spoke about that yesterday. This simply is, as I said, for me, a must-win game, and not in the sense that the side we're playing, with a team that we should be expecting to beat, because Arsenal are a very good side. They've got some really, really good players. And, again, the manager is starting to, you can see his tactics and you can see his decisions are starting to rub off on those players. I actually think Mikel Arteta is a decent manager, if I'm being honest with you. So it's not a must-win that you're looking at thinking this is a team that we should be absolutely beating, but it's a must-win in the sense that this is an Arsenal team that, although they're very good, we've simply got to win this game because we need to start picking up points. It's as basic as that. As basic as that. We have to start winning games of football because we're getting towards mid-December now. We've still got to play Chelsea. We've still got to play Leicester in December. We've got some difficult away fixtures coming up. Got to play Palace, who are a very resilient side. It's getting to the point now where if we don't start winning games quickly, Rafa Benitez won't be in a job much longer, regardless of what Farhad Bashiri says on TalkSport. I think he done the same with, I think it was Ronald Koeman. He come out one week and said that, the fraud fully back, the board should fully back Ronald Koeman, this, that and the other, and then he had a couple of bad results and then he was sacked, the week later. So regardless of what, Farhad Bashiri is telling his best mate Jim White on TalkSport, if Everton don't start winning games, the manager will be out the door, but also will be in a very, 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 very worrying position in terms of the league table. And we're coming towards the midway point in the season. They often say, don't do whoever's top of the league at Christmas wins the league. It doesn't really change that much. Yes, it can change, here and there slightly, but it doesn't often change dramatically. If Everton are sort of towards that bottom 3 places, or certainly maybe even in that bottom 3 at Christmas, that's not going to change dramatically either. So we really, really need to start winning games. We really, really need to start picking up points, and Monday is a better time than any. Let's be honest with you. Although Arsenal are a decent team, Monday is a better time than any, and especially if Rafa Benitez wants to attempt to get the fans back on side. Now, I said after Wednesday's game, I don't think Rafa Benitez will ever get the fans back on side now. I really, really don't. And whether that's right or wrong, whether people agree with that or disagree with it, I just don't see a way back from Rafa Benitez in Evertonians' minds. I just don't. Not every Evertonian, of course, because there'll be some Blues watching now. There'll be some Blues out there that, don't put any blame on Rafa Benitez, which I do think is a little bit baffling, because I think he deserves blame. He deserves to be criticised, because some of the tactical decisions he's made in recent weeks have been absolutely baffling. The decision to not play 3 in midfield on Wednesday when we were coming up against one of the best midfields in Europe was just tactically inept. There's nothing else you could call it. But he's not the only person at fault. We have had injuries. He had a minimal transfer budget. And I think a lot of the pressure being piled on him from fans is because of his connections with a certain other football club. But also because tactically he's not helping himself at the moment. He really, really isn't. So Rafa Benitez can't really afford to not win this game either. A draw won't be good enough. Yes, we might be sitting here saying, it's better than obviously a loss. obviously, and it's something, but we drew against Tottenham and it wasn't good enough. The performance was much better, but when you looked at that Tottenham side on the day and you realised that they were actually giving nothing to the game and they were very much there for the taking, it wasn't good enough. You know, we're not sitting here now saying 1 win in 11 games, no win in 2 months, but that draw against Tottenham was boss. It wasn't good enough, and I don't think a draw on Monday night against this Arsenal team will be good enough. I think Everton have simply got to go out there and win, and that's going to take the right tactics from the manager, and it's going to take the right attitude from the players as well. We can't allow Arsenal to do what Liverpool did. Arsenal have been watching that game on Wednesday night, probably thinking they've got an important game yesterday against Man United, but they'll have been watching and looking at Everton. Maybe even today they'll have sat down and watched it and thought, right, okay, this is an Everton side who often play two in the midfield. Now, yes, they might have a little bit of confidence, they might come forward, they might try and create, but if you defend well, which again, Arsenal have got a £50 million centre-half in there, in Ben White, they've got Gabriel, who we were, very interested in signing last summer. They've got a good defensive unit there. If they'll be thinking, if we can defend well and get the ball into the midfield, we'll have absolute space to burn. Look at the players they've got at their disposal in terms of a midfield and a forward-thinking roles. Saka, brilliant young player. Emile Smith-Rowe, fantastic young player. Ødegaard, who scored last night, okay, give away a penalty as well, but really talented young player. The likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Martinelli, who I massively rate as well. They've got a lot of talent in and around those. Thomas Partey, of course, in that midfield. They might have Lokonga back in there. I'm not too sure what his situation is. They've got a lot of players within that midfield and forward areas that can really seriously hurt Everton if we make the mistakes that we did on Wednesday night against Liverpool. And the first mistake we made on Wednesday night against Liverpool was a decision to not play three in the midfield by the manager. It was baffling for me, especially given Alan isn't really... Let's not even sugarcoat it. Alan is quite slow. He's not quick whatsoever in the slightest. So to have him there on his own effectively, given Abdoulaye Doucouré was doing the running round and trying to, pick up the pieces, to have Alan as the only sort of midfielder solely, responsible for doing the defensive work was stupid for me. Absolutely stupid. And I think, again, said it before the derby on Tuesday, and I'll say it again today before this game on Monday. I think Rafa Benitez would be silly to not play three in midfield on Monday night. I really, really do. It will be difficult, of course it will, but as I said, we simply have to start winning games of football. It's as bland as that. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no this, that, and the other. We've got to start winning games of football. One massive, massive positive about this game, and the timing of this game, is that it's on a Monday night. And that means that we don't have our weekend ruined by Everton. I actually can't wait for tomorrow and Sunday. It feels like an international break, but we get to watch other footy. International breaks are dead shit because there's no other Premier League footy on. So when you're sitting down on a Saturday morning thinking, oh, who's the half-12 game? There's nothing to watch until 6 o'clock when you're watching Serbia take on, I don't know, Venezuela. So no disrespect to either of those teams, but it's not very entertaining. This weekend we get to watch all the Premier League footy and we don't have to watch Everton, which is just a massive bonus, isn't it? We don't have to watch Everton until Monday night. But no, it'll be a tough game. It will be a tough game. It'll be a tough test, but as I said, we've got to start winning at some point. And I know nobody sees it. Peter says in the live comments, and we will get in the live comments in a moment, by the way. If you are watching live, please do get your thoughts in the comment section down below. It would mean a massive, massive amount to me. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. As I said, we will get into the live comments in just a second. But, I fully understand that a lot of Blues, including myself, to be honest with you, can't really see where Everton's next win comes from, and if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I'm not confident that we'll go out on Monday night and win this game. I'm really, really not, and that lack of confidence comes from 10, 11 games, and only winning one of them, no winning in 2 months, and we're coming up against the side in Arsenal who, have been relatively well, playing well this season. Okay, away form hasn't been great, but they're capable of picking up 3 points, especially against sides that aren't in very good form. So I understand that there's a massive lack of confidence from the fan base, and I understand that we're all sort of sitting here saying I don't expect anything out this game on Monday. But the reality is Everton could be playing anybody on Monday night, and I wouldn't expect us to go out and get the 3 points because that's the form that we're in at the moment. That's where we are at the moment as a football club. But whether we expect it or not, whether we're in that, but we have to start winning games. Otherwise, we'll be in a relegation battle, and even worse, we'll be playing Championship football next season. So it's not a case of, oh yeah, well, Arsenal, the good team, we'll see what happens. It's a case of, no, we've got to go out and win this game on Monday. Simple as, we've got to go out. Rafa Benitez has given an update on injury news. He was asked, firstly, actually today, the first question was about injuries. Before he was asked about the derby, before he was asked about Arsenal, he was asked about injuries. He said that Yerry Mina has done part of the training session today. He is getting closer. We'll see how he reacts in the next couple of days. Solomon Rondon, we are assessing him. He is getting better, but we need to wait for the scan. We are definitely missing Dominic and Tom Davis. He said that Andre Gomes is back in full training as well. On Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he said he's doing well. I was talking with the fitness coach. He's doing well, but still a couple of weeks minimum. Massively worrying, by the way. Massively worrying. Still a couple of weeks minimum. We have to be careful with him because he's had 2 injuries. He's doing really well, but we have to be careful. I recall quite vividly Dominic Calvert-Lewin being a couple of weeks away from returning to fitness about 4 months ago, which just tells you everything about Everton Football Club, doesn't it? But no, look, he's obviously picked up, another injury on top of the injury that he originally had, which is sad, of course. And ultimately, at the moment, we need Dominic Calvert-Lewin back in this Everton team. We can't really afford to be without him. Solomon Rondon was better on Wednesday night than he has been. Still wasn't great, but he was better. He obviously has now picked up a knock. Obviously went off on Wednesday, and that might keep him out for this game on Monday night. And if that's the case, if we're going to be without Solomon Rondon and obviously without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then the tactic has to change for me from Rafa Benitez. We can't. What we've seen in recent weeks and over the last month or so is a tactic of just lumping the ball up to Solomon Rondon and almost hoping that he'll bring the ball down, get on the end of it and lay it off for other players. Now, 9 times out of 10 that hasn't worked. It worked to a degree against Liverpool on Wednesday. It still wasn't great, still wasn't amazing, but it worked a lot better than it has been doing. Now, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks as well is that when you try and put Richarlison in that position, and when you try and take Solomon Rondon out and put Richarlison in there and keep with the same tactic, it doesn't work because Richarlison simply isn't a striker who is gonna who's gonna get the ball, pick it, take it down, play it off to other players. He's a striker that wants the ball played across the floor to him so he can get on the end of it and run onto the end of it and slot it past the goalkeeper, as he's done on many occasions since joining Everton Football Club. He's not the lump the ball up to target man type of striker. Now, Solomon Rondon is, and so is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and it worries me that I was going to say Rafa Benitez only has a plan A, but I don't even really think he has a plan A at the moment. But it worries me that his only sort of tactic that he is implementing at the moment is that lump the ball up to whoever's up front and then see where we go from there. And that won't work on Monday night. If Richarlison is going to be the lone striker, which is very likely, because even if Solomon Rondon is deemed fit, I highly doubt he's fit enough to play 2 games in a week. Well, 3 games in a week, really, wasn't it? Because it was only Sunday we played Brentford. So if it's going to be Richarlison up front, which I think it will be, we can't play that style. We can't play that system because it doesn't work. And Arsenal will have a field day defending it. Gabriel is a big, physical, defensive player who can get up, who can win who can win headers, who can win challenges, can deal with those situations all day long. And Richarlison will have absolutely no luck again. So, for me, if the front three is going to consist of Richarlison, Andros Townsend and Damari Gray, which is very likely, then we have to change the style. We have to change the system. It can't just be lump the ball up to Richarlison and hope that he'll take it down and take players on. You've got to get it to the wingers. You've got to play it in behind Richarlison, in front, in behind the defender, for Richarlison to run onto, play it along the floor, get the crosses in. Richarlison is very, very good at attacking the ball with his head. Very, very good. If you get crosses into him in dangerous areas, he can attack the ball with his head very, very well. He's not somebody that is particularly great at sort of knocking the ball on or, again, getting it lumped up to him and taking it down. So I'm all for crosses getting through into the box in dangerous areas and Richarlison being in there to get on the end of it, but not a big massive ball being lumped up to Richarlison on the halfway line to try and take it out. Try and take it down and make something happen. It just simply won't work. Anyway, let's get into the live comments before we continue to move on. I do want to talk about Arsenal a little bit more. Their recent form, obviously we mentioned some of the players that they have got at their disposal as well. They are currently sitting 5th in the Premier League, played 14, won 7, drawn 2 and lost 5, 23 points. And again, obviously, as I said, a disappointing for them. I'm not arsed personally, but a disappointing result last night for them against Manchester United at Old Trafford, considering they went 1-0 up and then they got back into the game at 2-1 to make it 2-2 to concede a penalty, which was a blatant penalty, by the way. I can't complain about it. To concede the penalty in that manner in the 82nd, 83rd minute, whatever it was, would have been gutting for them, because a point at Old Trafford would have been quite a good result, considering that there's a lift around Manchester United at the moment. So they'll be looking to bounce back, and they'll also understand that this Everton team, the fans, the manager, the board are in all sorts of shit at the moment. This club is at rock bottom. Absolutely rock bottom. It's soulless, it's emotionless. The board need massive questions asked about them, and we will be doing a live stream directly on the board. Somebody commented yesterday saying do the board stream tomorrow, meaning today. I can't do it today because I've got a few bits to do after this one, but tomorrow evening, probably around about 5-6 o'clock, something like that, we will be sitting down and we'll be doing a live stream which will simply be titled Changes. Simply be titled, what can I title it? I had a thought before and it's just gone out my head when I've just went to say it then. Why does that always happen? Time for Change. There you go. That's what it'll be titled. Time for Change. And we'll be sitting down, we'll be talking about Denise Barrett-Baxendale and what she does and what we know she does anyway. We'll be talking about Marcel Brands, we'll be talking about Bill Kenwright, we'll be talking about Farhad Mashiri, we'll be talking about Rafa Benitez, and it won't just be a whole everybody gets, slewed left, right and centre. There will be a lot of people on that board that will be, I'll be having a go at, put it that way, but it'll be in a constructive manner, and it'll just be a discussion about why this football club is on its arse and why it's been on its arse for so long, and what needs to be changed, in my opinion, to change that, because it doesn't matter if you sack Rafa Benitez tomorrow. Ultimately, the tactics might get better, we might get a few decent results, we might have a little run, but in the grand scheme of things, the way the club is ran, nothing will change until certain members who are sitting on that board are moved out of this football club. But again, as I said, I don't want to sit here and just do another half an hour, 40-minute rant on the board, because this is the preview. That stream will be tomorrow and it will be dedicated purely to talking about the board, so look out for that one as well. But yeah, let's get into the live comments before we go on to talk about Arsenal's form at the moment. We are going to give our predicted starting 11 as well, of course. Fat Wallet says, just waiting for Cam's live feed and already smashed the like button because I know it'll be good content. Follow my lead, lad, and smash these likes for Cam. Thank you very much, my mate. Really do appreciate it. 70 people watching. If you could hit the likes, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Subscribers have been flying up recently, and I know that it's not been great for Everton, and trust me, it's been tough. Sometimes when we lost to Brentford, the last thing I wanted to do was sit here in front of a camera and talk about what I've just witnessed. But I understand that a lot of people enjoy the content, and I understand that this is a community. It's not just a channel for me, it's a channel for everybody. So obviously we sat down and we done it. So thank you very much. The support has been unbelievable recently. And I know it's hard to sit down and watch somebody talk about Everton when we're this bad. And when, let's be honest, a lot of Blues, including myself at the moment, feel so disconnected to the football club that, I don't blame other Blues that sort of just go the match because they've paid and because that's what, that's what we do, and, we've got that emotional connection. But after the match, they just go home and they don't even think about Everton until the next match day. I really don't blame any Blues that are doing that at the moment, because, again, this club don't deserve for us to be so invested, so emotionally invested. This club doesn't deserve us fans. It really, really doesn't. And the sooner this club realises that without us, it is absolutely fucking nothing, maybe something will change then. Maybe something will change the sooner Farhad Mashiri realises, hang on, without these bums in seats in the stadium, without these people watching, without these people buying our products, I'm not going to have the capability to buy these players or do this or do that. And his business will ultimately fail. So thank you all so much for the support. Forgotten Where the Moves says, evening Cam, mate, I hope you're doing well despite recent Everton performances. other than Everton, I'm doing alright. Philip Mason says, good afternoon, good sir. Hope you took your hanging out in the boxing gym. It was a good session last night, mate. It was a good session, to be fair. I come home and I felt refreshed. That's for sure. I come home last night. I didn't come home this morning. I wasn't there that long. Crimson says, alright everyone. He says, got some confidence for Monday, and they defo wanting to bounce back, but like you said, it's a must win. That's it. And a bounce back for me isn't that we turn up on Monday and we take we get a 0-0 draw, or we hang on and we just get a point. That's not a bounce back for me. Arsenal are a decent side, but they're not an impossible team to beat. Manchester United proved that last night. Manchester United aren't very good, and they beat them at home. The crowd was up. They've obviously got a new lease of life because of the new manager. That's what we've got to do on Monday night. Ultimately, we've got to beat them. Arsenal have struggled over the last couple of weeks with away games. Okay, they've played Manchester United and Liverpool, but if we can if we can play into that and go out there and put a performance in, it's a win. It's a must win. Rafa Benitez keeps saying two things. He's persisting with these two, I don't know whether you'd call them excuses or reason, but he's persisting with these two things. A is, when we get players back from injury, we'll be alright. So, Yerry Mina, there's a potential that he might be back on Monday. If he is, let's see what happens with the defence. Let's see if, he keeps Seamus Coleman at right back, or maybe he'll put Ben Godfrey there and put Yerry Mina back in. And obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who won't be back on Monday, but let's see what happens when he's back. But the other thing he's persisting with is that, when we get that one win, when we get that sort of win, and when we come out of this bad run of form, then, often that can be the trigger to go and put in a good run of form. So, that one win's got to come sooner rather than later, hasn't it? So let's go and get that win on Monday night and then see where that can take us, because we need it. We simply need it. We need to win a game this side of Christmas. It's as simple as that. And if we beat Arsenal on Monday, then the Leicester game, the Palace games like that start to look a bit more realistic. Chelsea is a write-off, an absolute write-off either way. But if we don't win on Monday and we lose, then the likes of Leicester, Palace become a burden again. You're sort of looking at them going, these teams will be looking at Everton thinking this is a guaranteed 3 points. And then before you know it, we get to Christmas, we're in the relegation zone. What happens then? He won't be in a job by then if that's the case. But what happens then? Stevie says, I'm not even from Liverpool and I felt Rafa should have even have been considered for the job. There you go. Crimson says, hey Phil, you alright? Remy says, calm lad, how's everyone doing? I'm not too bad, I'm not too bad, mate. Hope you're doing well yourself. Philip says, yes mate, yourself, I wear me. Crimson says, all good, going to enjoy the weekend is right. Fat Wallet says, yeah, running more than Liverpool, but we're running like headless chickens. Peter says, headless chickens do run around, to be fair. You're right. Tom says, the players just aren't good enough. Having some fight in you helps what we haven't got, hence why where we are get Duncan. And Whammy says, he has to try, can't really come out and say all of these are shit when they still have to play at least till January, probably the whole season based on Brands' previous markets. Again, I'm not surprised by the fact that Rafa Benitez has said what he said in his press conference, because ultimately, as you've just quite rightly said, he's not going to come out and say, yeah, I agree with the fans, the board are a shambles, because they're the people paying his wages, they're the people keeping him in a job. He's not going to come out and say the players are dreadful, because they're the people who he's having to manage. But and ultimately as well, he's not the type of manager to come out and put a lot of blame on himself, and he never has been. Hernandez, by the way, let me just address this before we go back into talking about the game, and we will get back in the live comments, by the way. 80 people watching. If you could get those likes up, it'd be much appreciated. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Hernandez says, I actually get mad seeing all of the Everton Direct emails to buy merch for Christmas. Still can't believe the board haven't made a video to settle fan bases down yet. It can get much worse than this. You're spot on, and you know what? That's a point that we're going to talk more about in tomorrow's live stream about the board. But obviously we played Brentford last week before the Merseyside derby. We lost a very embarrassing game of football to Brentford, a game that we needed to win against the side that we should have been beaten. We should have been more than good enough to beat. And directly after the game, the club had sent an email out saying, come and get this merchandise, come and buy these shirts. These shirts are £5 or £10 off, £20 off. Come buy. There's just no. And someone at the club might go, they're automated, they're automatic, they go out automatically. But there just doesn't seem to be any realisation of the situation that we're in and any realisation of how frustrated fans are actually becoming. And that is one of my biggest issues with the board. The board are incompetent and don't understand how to run a football club. That's a massive, massive issue. But you know what's worse than having an incompetent board that don't understand how to run a football club? What's worse than that is having an incompetent board that don't understand how to run a football club but believe that they're doing everything right and that everything they do is perfect and that everybody else thinks they're doing everything right as well. That's the scary thing. The scary thing isn't necessarily that these people aren't very good at the jobs or certainly aren't showing they're very good at the jobs. The scary thing is that they think they're doing a brilliant job, and we're currently sitting 14th in the Premier League with an ex-Liverpool manager who a lot of the fan base don't want at the football club, not won a game in 2 months, won 1 in 11, which, by the way, is enough for any Premier League manager to be sacked. At no other club, no matter how long the manager's been in charge, at no other Premier League club would a manager last 8 games without winning a game of football. They'd have been shipped out, left, straight away. Dean Smith at Villa earlier on in the season. We saw Solskjaer go a couple of weeks ago. We saw Nuno go very quickly at Spurs. It just doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen in football these days. So that's what frustrates me the most. But as I said, all of that we're going to talk about tomorrow, because otherwise we could be here for days, if I'm being honest with you, talking about the board. Let's get back into looking at the game on Monday then. Let's have a little look at Arsenal's recent fixtures. Let's have a look at Arsenal's recent results. So they lost, obviously, 3-2 to Manchester United last night. Again, very, very good game of football, to be fair, for the neutral. Very tight game of football. Obviously, Arsenal going 1-0 up in controversial manner. Apparently not controversial whatsoever. I can't tell you how many times David De Gea does that, by the way. He's done it against Everton about 5 times in the last however many years. He's done it in the game where Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored and it was disallowed. He done it, I think, the year before when Richarlison scored an overhead kick. He does it every game. He doesn't win the ball from a corner or from a cross, and he just throws himself on the floor, and he stays on the floor until he hears the referee's whistle. And that's what happened yesterday. He heard the referee's whistle, and he was straight up on his feet again. It just so happened that the ball had got in the back of the net. There was nothing wrong with him whatsoever. And any Man United fan saying, fair play, it's not fair play. What he does is he realises he can't win the ball, and he just throws himself on the floor. That's all he does. And then as soon as the whistle goes, he's back up. And I agree with what Alan Shearer said. If it had been a serious injury, then yes, there'd have been a shout. But there's nothing wrong with him. So the goal was, considering it was deemed the most controversial goal in Premier League history, didn't think it was controversial whatsoever. In fact, I think there's been more controversial goals over the last 4 or 5 weeks than that one, to be honest with you. Anyway, they lost 3-2 to Manchester United last night. Man United come back. Ronaldo come back, of course, to get a couple of goals. That would have, again, knocked their confidence a little bit. They did win 2-0 against Newcastle at home the week before. Again, good result for them. Newcastle are in really bad form at the moment. Lost 4-0 to Newcastle the week before that at Anfield. Beat Watford at the Emirates the week before that. Beat Leicester away. That was the last away win at Leicester the week before that, and the week before that they beat Leeds at home. So the last couple of away results haven't been very positive, albeit they've played a Manchester United team who, okay, aren't very good, but certainly have got a boost in confidence at the moment, and a Liverpool team who, again, as much as we don't like, as we saw firsthand on Wednesday, they're very, very good at football. So, it's not wrong to say that Arsenal have been much better at home than they have been away from home. I think that's absolutely accurate, but they still haven't been. It's not like they've been absolutely dreadful away from home. It's not like they're putting in, the type of performances that we were putting in at Goodison Park last season, where they're just losing to anybody. They're not. They've lost a couple of games, but they've lost them to decent sides with decent players in. And at the Emirates, they're doing really, really well. So, as I said, considering this was an Arsenal team who were in turmoil at some stage last season, and we're certainly looking like Mikel Arteta wouldn't be there for much longer. They've turned it round. They have turned it round. They're in good form, albeit a couple of defeats okay, but typically overall they're in generally good form. They're 5th in the Premier League, won 7, lost 5, drawn 2. They've got some really talented players. They play some really nice football, and it seems like the players and a lot of the fans who wanted the manager out are now starting to buy in to the manager's tactics, are now starting to buy in to the manager's way of playing. And the players are as well. He made some good signings in the summer as well. Spent some real big money. Obviously brought in Aaron Ramsdale, who again is the best goalkeeper since sliced bread, apparently. No, he's decent Alan Ramsdale, but he's not as good as some people think he is. But he's a good goalkeeper, he is. So yeah, as I said, really, really tough game for Everton, really tough challenge. And it's imperative for me that we go out and win this game of football, but it's also imperative that we don't make the same stupid mistakes that we made against Liverpool on Wednesday night. We don't give them all the space and time in the world to run into, because they've got a lot of really good, talented, young, forward-thinking midfielders and forwards who will more than undoubtedly cause us, cause us problems. If we allow them to. Defensively, we've got to be absolutely spot on, and considering this is a counter-attacking team, we aren't very good at counter-attacking, considering we're a counter-attacking team, and the first sort of, I suppose, key thing in counter-attacking when you counter-attacking is your defence. You've got to be so resilient defensively. We saw it last December, when we played Chelsea, when we played Arsenal, that, okay, we counter-attacked and we won the game by doing that. We didn't have a lot of chances, but defensively we were absolutely brilliant in those games. We were fantastic defensively. That's the first port of call when you're a counter-attacking side. You've got to be strong defensively, and Everton simply have to be strong defensively on Monday night. Let's get into our predicted starting 11, and in fact, before we do that, we'll jump back in the live comments. Over 100 people watching again. Thank you all so much. If you are watching and you're enjoying this, please hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Let's see if we can get to 50 likes before we finish up this one. Where are we in the live comments? Again, loads of comments, so we might struggle to get through them all, but we'll try and get through as many of them as we possibly can. Crimson says, thoughts. I don't know what thoughts you want me to give there. Thoughts on anything in general. I'll give you the thought. What thought can I give you, actually? My thought of the day is that Skittles are a very, very good sweet. There you go. Philip says, in fairness, Macheri isn't going to call Rafa out. He isn't, but listen, my big issue with Macheri is, again, it isn't the fact that he's backing Rafa Benitez. I have no massive issue. I think Rafa Benitez is culpable for some of the performances and results recently, and I think he deserves the criticism that he's getting. And I think he needs to improve quickly, otherwise he shouldn't be in a job. And if he was sacked tomorrow, I wouldn't have a big issue with it, because we've not won a game for so long, and you simply can't do that in the Premier League. My massive issue with that statement was that he went to his friend at TalkSport. He didn't think, I'll sit down with Everton TV, or I'll sit down with one of the Everton fan groups, or I'll talk to fans directly. He wasn't talking to fans directly, Macheri. I likened this yesterday to, imagine you worked in a painting company or something, and you were a painting manufacturer, or, you manufactured paint, and, your customers were fuming because the paint you were manufacturing was shit, it was inconsistent, and it didn't do anything, and it smelled horrible. And you were coming under pressure. Your customers were saying, we want to hear from you, we want you to speak, we want you to give us an update, what's going on, and you instead decided to go out for a bevy with your mate and have a private conversation about what's going on, and somebody managed to overhear that bevy and that conversation and relay it back to your customers. Would the customers feel like they were being spoken to? Would the customers feel like they were being addressed? No, they'd say, hang on, you haven't come and addressed us, you've just had a conversation with someone else and it's got back to us. That's how I see this situation. Farhad Macheri hasn't addressed Evertonians, he hasn't addressed us as fans, he hasn't addressed the big issues at the club, to be honest. The statement, and this is why I have a big issue with these types of things, with TalkSport and other things like that. I've got nothing against Jim White, absolutely nothing against Jim White whatsoever, but Jim White has asked Farhad Macheri the easy question. Jim White has said to Farhad Macheri, listen, do you back Rafa? Do you back Rafa Benitez, this, that and the other? I was there on Wednesday night. The chants at the end of the game were sack the board. They weren't sack Rafa Benitez. Okay, there might be a lot of Evertonians that don't want the manager, but at the moment, the focus is really surrounding the board more than the manager. It's more towards the board than the manager. The chants at the end of the game were towards the board and not the manager. So Jim White has effectively come out and said, well, what about the manager? Let's divert the attention from the board. What about the manager? Do you think the manager's going to get sacked? And Macheri's gone, no, we're going to back him, we're going to give him this, we're going to give him that. Why isn't Jim White saying, well, what about Bill Kenwright? What are you going to do with Bill Kenwright? What about Marcel Brands? What about recruitment? Why haven't Everton signed a right back, considering our right back clearly isn't good enough to play anymore week in, week out? What about Denise Barrett-Baxendale? What's her position? He hasn't asked those difficult questions. He's asked the easy question, and it is the easy question because the focus on Wednesday night wasn't as much on the manager as it was on the board, and that's the big issue I have with it, as well as the fact that he fucking ran off to TalkSport instead of addressing us properly. Sit down, do a statement, and release it via your own media. You know, the club that you own, you know, the club that you bought, you know, your company, they've got a media department, you know, they've got a YouTube channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they've got Twitter pages with however many million followers, they've got Instagram. Come out and put a statement on that. Stop talking to your mates about our fucking football club. It's easy, it's simple, it's easy. Same with Marcel Brands. Don't come out and confront fans and say, oh, well, is it just the players? Sit down with Everton TV and do a 15-minute video about what's going on at this football club. It's a nonsense. And I said I wasn't going to get myself emotionally invested because I want to leave all of that for tomorrow. By the way, if you enjoyed that little snippet, we're doing a live stream on the board tomorrow. It's going to be called Changes. I forgot what the name is already. I said the name before and I forgot it already. Time to Change, it's going to be called, and we're going to be going through all of this. But anyway, this is about Arsenal. Jason says, I took that statement as a vote of confidence, which used to mean the next defeat and the manager goes. Yeah, I don't know. Kat says, Crimson says, Kat running over me keyboard. Thoughts on Brands saying, is it just the players that were interested? I think Marcel Brands needs to sit down with Everton media, as I've just said, and talk to us fans and stop just hiding effectively. Where are we? DGST, what's happening, mate? He says, I did say at the start of the season about Hammers, we're going to miss him before any of you start chatting. He didn't care, neither do any of these. Fair point. We will probably end up with Frank Lampard, says Jason. I don't want Frank Lampard either, to be fair. Although I think he's a decent manager, I don't think he's what Everton need at the moment. Tom says, yes, Spurs, we shit, I said it. Whammy says, Jason, really, we're still blowing that trombone. James, really, sorry. And Crimson says, in my opinion, absolutely terrible summer in terms of who we released or loaned out. Could do with some of them, especially when depth runs thin. Well, yeah, you're spot on. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. Does only take a second. And if you are new to the channel, then please do subscribe. Over 110 people watching. If you could hit that like button, it would be absolutely great. Shai says, I'm here. No one is interested to talk. What is my status? I don't know. Izzy says, this is a bot mods. Ball says, also sick of the media not asking Rafa the right questions, does my head in. They never will, because most of them are mates with him. Jack's just said that. And Andy says, Marcel Brands challenged the owner of the club to a fan, and nothing will come of it. Machiri will probably give him a raise and a bigger position on the board. Idiotic. Yeah. And I can't pronounce your name, sorry. Is it Shaish? I'm just going to say S. S says, Rafa Benitez won't solve anything. And Nimbus, I love the guys at Toffee TV, so I'm not gonna, but thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it. If you are watching and you're enjoying and you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Anyway, predicted starting 11, let's get into it. For this game, as I said, difficult game, of course. Arsenal are a good side and a side in relatively good form, but a winnable game. Certainly not a game that I look at and think, oh, this is impossible. This is out the realms of possibility. It's not the Merseyside derby where you look at and you go, these are unbelievable. And in fact, even in the Merseyside derby, we gifted them however many chances, so we helped them out. Shahil, sorry, my mate. This isn't that same. Arsenal are a decent side, but they're a beatable side, and it's simple. Everton have got to start winning games of football, so Everton have got to win on Monday night. Anyway, my predicted starting 11 then. Let's get into it. In goal, Jordan Pickford. Jack and Tom, by the way, I'll answer that question in a moment. In goal, Jordan Pickford. Obviously, there's an argument to be had that he was at fault for the fourth goal on Wednesday night. I keep forgetting the days. The days all mix into one on Wednesday night. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't argue with you if he was. A goalkeeper shouldn't be getting beaten in his near post. I understand that. don't get me wrong, Alan was absolutely spun inside out by Diego Jota. It was easy. It was easy for Alan, for Jota. But Pickford maybe should have done a little bit better. I don't think he could have done much for any of the other 3 goals, and I think he actually made a couple of really, really big saves early on to deny Liverpool from extending the lead even further. And again, as I said, Asmir Begovic ain't going to start, is he? So Jordan Pickford is in goal for this one on Monday. Back line, I've gone with Luca Dean, Michael Keane, Ben Godfrey, and Seamus Coleman, to be honest with you. Now, obviously, as I've just mentioned earlier on in the stream, Yerry Mina is in contention of being involved. The manager has said that he is getting better, he's getting fitter, and there will be a assessment basically on him before this game to determine whether or not he's ready to, or he's ready to get back in the starting 11. Given he hasn't played for 2 months, and given the fact that it's, the manager hasn't come out today and said yes, he's absolutely back, he's ready, he's been training all week, he'll be in the team, I don't think Yerry Mina will start on Monday. Now, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong, I could be wrong vastly. We might see Yerry Mina start, and do you know what? I would love Yerry Mina to start. I really, really would, because he's our best centre-half, and I think we've been crying out for Yerry Mina to get back in the team for so long, as well as the fact that Farhad Mashiri, Rafa Benitez, a lot of people's excuses at the moment, or a lot of people's reasoning for why we're doing so bad at the moment, is because we have injuries. And let's be honest, when people say injuries, they're really referring to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Yerry Mina, because Andre Gomez ain't really changing what's going on at the club, is he? And neither is Tom Davies. So if Yerry Mina is fit and is available, then hopefully he's in the starting 11, and I've got no doubt he'll improve the performances, because he's a better defender than anybody else at the club. However, I'm just not sure that'll be the case. I'm not completely convinced that he'll be fit, or certainly fit enough to start. I think you might see Yerry Mina on the bench, and you might see him come on for 15-20 minutes towards the end of the game, and then you might see him start whenever else we play. Is it next week? Next midweek? I can't remember. I can't remember. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Luca Dean at left back, of course. Again, pretty pointless even having the conversation. There's simply nobody else that can play left back. However, Luca Dean hasn't been very good recently. He simply hasn't been very good recently. But it's a mad one, Luca Dean, because he's got quality. He's very clearly a very good attacking fullback when he's on his game. His crossing can be absolutely elite at times, and he can be a real threat going forward. Defensively, I don't think he's great, to be honest. I don't think he's great, and I don't think he's ever has been great defensively. But offensively, we know that he's got an element to him that can certainly hurt sides, and for me, one of the big reasons as to why we haven't been seeing it recently is obviously because he's not been in great form, and he's had a really poor season so far, but also because I don't think the system has suited him. I don't think lumping the ball up to Rondon or whoever's up front and hoping that they can get it down and play it off to one of the wingers suits Luca Dean. I think Luca Dean suits belting down that wing and throwing balls in and open somebody's in the box to nod them in. Now, in reality, in recent weeks when Luca Dean's been in positions to not get down the wing and put balls in, nobody's been in the box. Rondon's been waiting for the bus at the bus stop to get into the box, and everybody else is sort of just being scattered, as well as the fact that it almost seems like Luca Dean's being told to not get forward because of the fact that we're so vulnerable defensively. So listen, Luca Dean starts either way, of course, but it'd be good for him to put in a performance that makes us go, this is the Luca Dean that we all know and love. As I said, centre halves Ben Godfrey and Michael Keane. If Yerry Mina is fit to start and the manager does deem him fit, then I do think that he will start, and if that's the case, I would hope to see Ben Godfrey at right back, to be honest with you. But I, at the moment, don't think I don't think that he will. Because I just don't whether he'll be fit. So Michael Keane and Yerry and Ben Godfrey will be the two centre halves in my opinion. I actually think Michael Keane played well against Liverpool, to be honest with you. He wasn't great, wasn't amazing, and probably could have done more for the maybe the fourth and the first goal. However, the third goal and the second weren't anything to do with him, I don't think. And as I said, I actually thought he played relatively well. He didn't make any mistakes. He didn't do anything out the ordinary. He just sort of done what he needs to do. He done his job. He got his head down, and I thought he worked hard. And same with Ben Godfrey after Salah's, first. I think, he was massively at fault for Salah's goal, the first goal. But after that, he sort of seemed to calm down a little bit and just do the basics. And whilst he wasn't absolutely amazing, he just sort of done the basics and got his head down. And then right back, of course, Seamus Coleman. Yeah, listen, again, I said it all yesterday, didn't I, when we done the review to the Liverpool game. For me, Seamus Coleman needs to be moved on now. He just, and it's sad because it's not Seamus's fault, but the club are really, really hanging him out to dry at the moment. He simply isn't good enough to be starting week in, week out. He isn't quick enough, and he just isn't good enough. He just isn't good enough. But the reality of the situation is, even a Seamus Coleman that isn't good enough and needs replacing is still a better option than John Joe Kenny, who just simply isn't good enough, period. So for me, it will be Seamus Coleman that starts. And yeah, as I said, all as we can hope is that he hasn't lost too much confidence off the back of that mistake on Wednesday night, because it was a really poor mistake. And ultimately, look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It cost us the game on Monday night. It cost us the game. So let's just hope that we don't see that again from Seamus, and let's hope that we see a solid performance from. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe as well. 130 people watching. If we could get to even 60, 70 likes, that'd be absolutely amazing. Into the midfield, then I've gone for a 3-man midfield. I've gone for Fabian Delph, Abdoulaye Doucouré and Alan, the midfield that Rafa Benitez should have gone with for the Merseyside derby on Wednesday night. Why he didn't go with the 3-man midfield absolutely baffles me, but for me, you've got to go with the 3-man midfield again. I know Arsenal don't necessarily play the same style as Liverpool and aren't necessarily as good in midfield as Liverpool are, but Arsenal have still got a lot of talented players at their disposal. We mentioned before the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka. Obviously they've got Thomas Partey in there. Attacking wise, they've got the likes of Aubameyang, Ødegaard, Pepe, Lacazette, Martinelli, all who can be of a real threat to Everton on Monday night. So for me, I think we just simply have to pack that midfield out. Fabian Delph, okay, he was awful against Manchester City, but he was very good against Tottenham and he was very good against Wolves in that second half. So I'd throw him straight back in. He's had a rest now. He hasn't featured for 2 games, 3 games. So he's had a rest, more than enough rest. I'd get him straight back in and say, listen, go and do that job. And I think if you have that 3 in midfield, you allow Doucouré to be the runner then. Doucouré can be that player that's getting in the opposition box and creating chances, maybe playing that ball into Richarlison or getting in the right areas, getting on the end of crosses. He can be that energetic box-to-box that we need. Whilst you've got 2 in midfield against a side like Arsenal, same with Liverpool last week on Wednesday, you can't have a box-to-box midfielder. There's simply not enough, there's just not enough cover there in the midfield, and we saw that when Alan was exposed drastically. So for me, I'd have 3 in midfield, Delph and Alan, and then in front of them, playing in that more of an attacking role, I'd have Abdoulaye Doucouré. Just running the lines and trying to get behind Arsenal's back line. And Alan, of course, in there as well, as I said. Not great against Liverpool. Let's have it right, not great. Looked a bit slow. But he was very much isolated on a lot of occasions. He worked hard, he put his foot in, he put himself about, he got about, but he still wasn't particularly great. So yeah, but anyway, he's in there because he's going to be in there anyway, and I think in a 3-man midfield he'll look a lot better. And then the forward line, I've gone for Damari Gray on the right, Andros Townsend on the left, and Richarlison up front. I would actually quite like to see Anthony Gordon start this game instead of Andros Townsend. Give Andros a bit of a rest because he hasn't been particularly great recently. And okay, I understand that Anthony Gordon come on against Liverpool and wasn't unbelievable, but again, I think when you're in a Merseyside derby against a really good team, maybe it's a little bit too much to ask. But I can't see the manager starting Anthony Gordon over Andros Townsend, if I'm being honest with you. The only other change I could see in that forward line is maybe Rondon starting if he is deemed fit enough to play, because of the fact that he was marginally better on Wednesday than he has been recently. But for me, I'd have that starting 3. I think Damari Gray is our best player at the moment, looking our most dangerous player. Seems to be the only player in this Everton team that will, isn't afraid to pick the ball up and run at people and take people on. And that goes a long way, of course. It really does. Richarlison isn't in the greatest of form, but again, it's about time that he gets a goal. It's about time that he picks that form up. And as much as Andros Townsend hasn't been in the greatest of form recently, again, I think the manager will prefer him to Anthony Gordon. So there you go. That is my predicted starting 11, or certainly the starting 11 that I hope the manager goes with in regards to the midfield, because if he hasn't watched that midfield performance against Liverpool and felt like we needed 3 in there, then I just don't know. I just simply don't know what he sees. And again, as I said, the issues, the issues at the football club aren't just Rafa Benitez's problems. And there's a much bigger issues at this football club that run much deeper than Rafael Benitez. However, he simply isn't helping himself. He simply isn't helping himself at the moment with some of the tactical decisions he's making and some of the team selections he's putting out there as well. So there you go. That is my predicted starting 11. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you are enjoying this one, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get back in the live comments before we finish up then. Izzy says, Paul, no refunds after the 2-week warranty runs out. I can purchase another item if you're satisfied on my interest due in a certain £70 million winger for just 25 million. No. Peter says, Luca Dean needs his attacking licence back and free kicks duty restored. Interesting. All sales are final, says Jack. Thomas says, Cam Kenwright called an emergency board meeting Machete flying in the weekend. Has he? I haven't read that anywhere, and I don't really believe it to be true. Shahil says, I have Pulisic, Goretzka, Aurier, Adama Traore, Todd Cantwell, De Ligt. I don't know who we're talking about there. Is that your ultimate team on FIFA? I don't know. I can help, he says, Rafa Benitez to buy in and choose players. None of those players are coming to Everton. Jebbo, what's happening, mate? He says, yo, what's happening? Jay says, Rafa to go in the hole if the board can do one. As I said, we'll be talking about the board tomorrow in a live stream, so don't forget to join us then. Paul says, is it too late for the refund of the Wobie? Izzy says, Martinelli is our biggest threat by far. Cam got to neutralise him if he wants to stifle us. His directness and sickery is a nightmare to deal with. Spot on. I completely agree. Really impressed with him recently. I was really impressed with him a couple of years ago when I first watched him, to be fair, and I didn't quite understand why he wasn't playing more often. I know he's had an injury and stuff, so I agree. Jack says, dunk by Boxing Day, presumably. Adam says, I Cam Rafa is looking to be sacked before Monday. It's on the news. I don't know what news it's on. Arsenal will batter us, so what happens then, says Roy? Well, I suppose then Farhad Mashiri will text his mate Jim White again and probably say, I didn't watch the match, I was away. Did we win? Izzy says, Paul, no thanks, mate. Sean says, the fullbacks have no support, left stranded, no partnerships. They play like 11 individuals. Tactics and recruitment are atrocious. I agree. Shahil says, I'm focused on Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea. Don't know why. Nimbus says, 100% right, he's done a great job for us over the years, but you're right, we needed the right back last season. I agree. Christmas jumpers on sale. Only one I want is TCL nodding the ball in. Yeah, I'm not buying an Everton Christmas jumper. Really no interest in football, says Shahil. I know where you're coming from, mate. Crimson says, a lot of these players are being hung out to dry by recruitment team and Rafa Benitez, as well as some most being not good enough. Yeah, I agree. Izzy says, missed another open goal yesterday and passed it back to De Gea. Philip says, do a watch along for Monday. Your numbers will be huge. I can't, Phil, because I'm going the game. So it'd have to be a watch along from Goodison, which wouldn't be very interesting. Tom, that was what you meant to say, and Jack has before I wrap it out. I am sort of in this weird stage of indifference at the moment, to be honest with you. I don't think that Rafa Benitez is the only issue with the football club, but I do think that his tactics and his team selection at the moment are indefensible, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I think I understand people saying we've had injuries and we had very little money to spend in the summer. I get that, but the reality is when you bring in somebody like Rafa Benitez at such a difficult time for Everton as a football club, even before Rafa Benitez come in, Carlo Ancelotti had left, we didn't know where we were going to go, the club was on its arse, we hadn't been successful for however long. It was a really risky controversial appointment at a time when a lot of Evertonians were feeling disconnected from the football club anyway, before Rafa Benitez become manager. And he, for me, couldn't have afforded to have the injuries that he's had, and he couldn't have afforded to have such a little transfer budget. But such is football. It is what it is. As I said, if he left tomorrow, I wouldn't be particularly heartbroken if he stayed. As I said, I don't personally think there's a way back for Rafa Benitez now. I think it's just a prolonging of him leaving the football club. I do. I think it's just a prolonging of him leaving the football club. However, I understand that there's much bigger issues at the club as well than Rafa Benitez. Sacked and relegated, says Shahil. Ellis seems to be given a try over Rondon, says Gabriel. Highly doubt it. Alfie says, would you let Dom go to Arsenal? I wouldn't let Dominic Calvert-Lewin go to Arsenal, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dominic Calvert-Lewin wanted to go to Arsenal, even though I don't think Arsenal are in a particularly better situation than Everton, but they really, really are. They really, really are. They weren't maybe 6 months ago, 12 months ago, but at the moment, they really are. I read about a board meeting too, says Peter. Yeah, I read about a board meeting from somebody on Twitter, but I'm not too sure how accurate it is. Everton is a cool club, says Rafij. Is right. Get beaten by Arsenal and Rafa will be gone, says Lonely Guy. If he is, then I don't understand why Machedi has come out and basically lied to us, but there you go. Marcel Brands, we read that one out before, didn't we? Jack says, Moyes' Everton teams used to really give it to rich Manchester City. We had quality, but against the traditional top teams, Moyes would chit it every time. A little bit of that with Arteta, I fear, maybe. Did play under Moyes, of course. Built to play to the front. Is he like a prototypical Moyes team? Where are we then? Izzy says, our problem away from home is that Ben White and Gabriel don't push high enough at home. They sit at the halfway line. Away from home, we drop into a low block. Still a lack of confidence. Well, Everton simply have to expose that. Everton simply have to expose that on Monday night if we're going to get anything out of the game. Thomas says, Lamps or Rooney? Neither. Me. And Shahil says, Arsenal player is better squad than Everton on stadium. I don't really know what that means, mate, but yeah, there you go. Anyway, look, we're going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second, as I mentioned before, and I've mentioned on a number of occasions. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Nearly 150 people watching again consistently tonight, so thank you all so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Izzy says hit the likes, people, 145 people in the chat. If we could hit the likes, we're 9 likes away from 70. If we could get to 70 before the end of the stream, that'd be absolutely perfect. As I said, we will be back tomorrow evening to talk about the board and to just give my raw feelings and emotions surrounding the board and what's going on at Everton Football Club at the moment and what I feel needs to change. And then obviously we'll be back on Monday night with the instant match reaction and the player ratings to this game. Let's hope it's a positive one. As I said, look, Arsenal are a decent side. They're in relatively decent form, but Everton have simply got to start winning games of football, and it starts on Monday night for me. We've got to go out there and we've got to win. For as good as Arsenal may be, and for as informed as they may be, and for as bad as where Everton are at the moment, we have got to go out and win. We simply have to go out and win. And that's all that matters. That is all that matters. I don't care about how hard the team run. I don't care about how many shots we have. I don't care about how much possession we have on Monday. As long as that scoreline reads positively for Everton, that's all I care about ultimately on Monday night. And let's hope that it does. Peter says, cheers, Cam lad, nice one. Thank you very much. Ketch says, no, I just tuned in. Sorry, my mate. I'm surprised why the YouTube channel has no mods, says Shill. I need to sort mods, to be fair. Jack says, be good, lads. Thank you. Jack also says, accept the effing goal stat. The one that matters, right? Yeah, spot on. Izzy says, is Yerry Mina back for Monday? He is to be assessed before Monday, according to Rafa Benitez. Paul says, cheers, Cam, mate. Thank you very much. Jack says, take care. Izzy sound for Laguna? Yeah, spot on. Up the Everton Toffees, come on you Blues, says Phil. Martin's going for 2-1. Let's hope so, mate. Crimson's going, yes, later. Everyone up the Toffees is right. Joseph's going for 1-0 Arsenal. Let's hope not. But yeah, look, let's hope it's a positive result, because as I said, ultimately we've got to start winning games of football. It's as simple as that. If you've enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Only takes a second. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow, and then of course we'll have all the post-game content out on Monday as well. Big thanks for watching. If you're watching the YouTube video, by the way, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. If you're watching live, massive thanks to everybody for getting involved. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.